Please welcome our final presenting team, EntoLog.
Good afternoon, everybody. We saved the absolutely best presentation for the last, so. So, welcome to the presentation of EntoLog. The future is bright with insects. So, the future can be bright, but what's happening right now is not of little concern. So, we will have a food crisis by 2050. So, what does that mean? In 2050, we will have an increase on the demand of water. We will have 9 billion of people on Earth, and these 9 billion of people, they will cause that we double our CO2 emissions, and on top of it, our agriculture production has to increase by 70%, just to keep people from getting hungry. So one solution to that is using insects as food. Insects are very nutritious, they're rich in good proteins, good fats, minerals like iron, calcium, and zinc, and the production of insects is very efficient. So, to produce the same amount of proteins with pigs, you need double as much feed for them. And it goes all the way up to 12 times as much feed for cattle in order to get the same amount of proteins compared to insects. So, but this is not the final solution, because there is a certain aversion when it comes to eating insects, and especially in the Western countries. So the solution to that is our Supersonic Extraction technology. So this patentable, proprietary, high throughput technology unlocks the huge potential of using insects as food. So with this supersonic extraction, we isolate every nutritional component out of the insect, and we are able to reassemble it in the way it fits best for the requested need. So, as you see, there are several products which can be produced out of our extracts. So, what we, as you see, for example, just to make you an example, we have here some worms, and here we have an extract, so it doesn't look like. So the yuck factor goes away, and here we have the freeze-dried protein. So it has nothing to do with an insect. So, and to highlight the advantage of our technology, we produced also a protein bar. So here there are only the proteins out of the insects. And for this product, we won the award from the Swiss Society of Food Science and Technology in 2014. So, what we have to mention, all the equipment is commercially available, so we don't have to reinvent the machine. And on what are we focusing on? We are focusing on the proteins. Why that? Because there's a $2.5 billion market in 2050, and already today we have a $1.5 billion market. And just to highlight that already today this topic is very interesting. So into our research there was also a huge media interest. So we were mentioned in more than 60 different media stations all around Europe, but as we came to the US, we were also mentioned on the Boston blog.
Well, thank you very much. Now let's talk about business. We are not actually going to rear insects, nor are we actually going to produce the final products. Well, our business is to license our supersonic extraction technology and then sell patent our technology and then sell license to food manufacturing companies in order to get license stream. In addition to that, we offer system plant design as well as consulting. Well, what about you? Have you ever eaten insects? What do you think about eating insects? Crunchy? But isn't it also a bit yucky? Well, believe it or not, over 2 billion people on this planet already eat insects on a regular basis, mainly in those countries highlighted in yellow. Well, as our first target entry, we have chosen Mexico. Why Mexico? Because the Mexicans really love to snack. They eat all the way up to 3.3 kilograms snacks per person per year, making it a $4.7 billion market in Mexico. And of course, the Mexicans already accept insects as food. And therefore, is that correct? Thank you. And in Mexico, we have, well, our first target customer will be PepsiCo. Well, why PepsiCo? PepsiCo, with its sub-brands Frito-Lay and Gatorade, is already successfully located in the Mexican market. And on top of that, we do have contacts to PepsiCo, and first meetings are scheduled at the end of this year. Okay, we have done a full tech economic analysis focusing on the proteins based on the data derived from the US Department of Agriculture. Well, we have realized that we're cheaper in the production costs compared to beef and cheaper in the production costs compared to milk, all the way up to 40%. And we're also able to produce more environmentally friendly. Well, let me give you an example. If we would use 1 ton of insect protein instead of 1 ton of milk protein, we would save the use of 24,000 square meters of land. We would save the use of 1,500 tons of water, and we would emit 14 tons less CO2 gases. And the nutritional components we get out of our extraction process are lactose-free, sugar-free, and have very little taste, color, or odor, which means you can add it basically in any product you want, and you won't really, it doesn't change the flavor of the final product. Well, but we have also done an analysis, and for our competitive positioning, we have listed our main competitors, companies who are already successfully located in the insect business. But the main difference is that we're actually the only ones who extract all the valuable components. For example, the company Exo, they just take the insects, they dry it and grind it up and sell it as insect flowers. And that's exactly where we consider to have our breakthrough, because we're able to separate the digestible components from the indigestible ones. We're able to make the final product more nutritionally valuable and eliminate the yuck factor completely, which you would still have from entire insect sources. Okay, here's our team. We've got the 3 of us up here, and we all did an apprenticeship as a chef cook or as a baker, and then we studied food technology or bioengineering. And because of that, we do own broad expertise when it comes to developing delectable food products. On the baseline, we have our advisory board, we have an extraction technology expert, we have a financing and marketing expert, as well as a nationally recognized nutritional expert. But we're still scouting for a protein market business advisor, someone who owns broad expertise in that field, someone who is able to be successful in customer acquisition. Well, here's our roadmap. We're on the way on securing our IP. We talked to an IP expert, and we're working on a patent strategy. And at the beginning of 2016, we're going to acquire our first customer, and also to talk about our technology in order to install first pre-commercial pilot plants in 2017. And then market entry is expected to happen in 2018, and of course, we're going to expand a year later. Well, let's have a closer look to our finances. The first year we're on utilizing family and friends as a source of capital, and then In 2016, we're looking for $200,000. That's mainly to get intellectual properties nailed down. And our revenue will start to increase in 2017. And of course, we hope that it will increase the following years due to increase of the technology, increase of acceptance of insect-based food products, and thus productivity. So we really want to feed the burgeoning population with a more sustainably produced, high nutritionally food components and be a part of the future food solution in thinking differently. We truly believe in our vision, and because this is a valuable business right now. And as I told you right before, those products are tasty.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention. We're just passing around the sample so you can have a look at it.
What are the products that so you're taking mealworms,
Right.
you're breaking them down into what? A fat and a protein meal?
Yeah, right. We are extracting the proteins. We isolate. Yeah. So here we see the composition of the mealworm. We have around 62% of water. The rest is protein. So 20%, 7% of fat, and the rest is about 12% exoskeleton like chitin. So we are dividing proteins and fats, and so mainly, as you see in front of you, this is the protein. So this is freeze-dried protein, and yeah.
Does this exclude the chitin and all that stuff?
Sorry.
Does it exclude the?
Right. There is no chitin in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why the focus on human nutrition?
Yeah.
I mean, there are very serious companies going after insect proteins as substitutes for, very environmentally destructive things like fish meal. So, obviously insect proteins to feed chickens, potentially huge business, much more easy market acceptance, regulatory burden is lower. Why wouldn't you do that as opposed to a focus on sort of human nutrition and as kind of baking ingredients alternatives?
Yeah, because one point, especially in Europe, it's easier to get permits for human nutrition
Permission.
Yeah, and from the other point of view, we want to look for a substitute for milk protein, and because we are competitive with milk.
Yeah, I have to add that we have read some research which they did for a fish meal, using insects as fish meal, and they're still struggling because the insects are mostly too fat for the fish. So it's not quite common. It's not, the business is not yet there for using insects for fish meal mainly because they're just too fat.
I guess what I was suggesting really was, I mean, the same core products that you're breaking it down into like a protein meal and a fat. I mean, dairy cows, chickens, fish, as you mentioned, all get custom blends of feeds. And, as you suggested, insect protein could be a cheaper way of getting protein and fat components into those animals. So all I'm suggesting is it might be potentially a more economic way to do the same thing that you're suggesting, but with a focus on animal feed as opposed to humans.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
In your extraction process, is that where your IP lies, or how are you separating yourself from?
Yeah.
I mean, to go and extract proteins is pretty common. So what's your IP?
Yeah, of course, but this is a very, very good question. So the point is, of course, so there are many extraction technologies, but the point is what you are doing with the proteins and what are the properties of the extracted proteins. So we did around 100 different extractions, and we have the knowledge to know which are the properties of the end product, because this is the technical use, and if you, for example, if you want to produce a biofilm or something, so the property changes when you're changing the setting of the extraction, and so therefore it's this is the intellectual property.
Well, the thing is, through our process, the proteins are still in their native forms, which means they're not coagulated, and that's another benefit of this process. And you have seen before on the slide before that the mealworms consist roughly 63% of water, and because we use also water for our extraction, we're going to recycle the water we get out of the insects to use it again for the extraction for the next mealworms.
One more follow-up. In your extraction process, are there any byproducts? Like when you go to extract fat, proteins, you have to use a solvent. Any byproducts that you have to get rid of or are concerned about?
Yeah. For example, the proteins and the fats, they can be used for foodstuff. The chitin, for example, you can use it or sell it to the chemical industry or pharmaceutical industry or cosmetic industry. So there are many ways to get a revenue out of these components which are not used for foodstuff.
We just have to mention we really focused on the proteins, and yeah, just another nutritional aspect. We also compared the proteins with beef, and we found out that you're not going to miss any essential amino acids, and you're actually better off considering the fats, because we have more unsaturated fatty acids in the mealworms or in insects compared to beef.
So we have high amounts of oleic acid, it's omega-9 fatty acid, or omega-6 like linoleic acid, fatty acids, yeah.
How close or how far do you need to be from the insect farms for it to be economical?
The point is,
What's the radius?
the radius. So we would like, we are just selling the technology. So then it depends if, like companies like PepsiCo, because there are several companies which are already producing insects, and also for food stuff, for example, in the Netherlands, and so, or to extract them close by to the factory and to ship only the extracted components. So it's all, so you're also more efficient by transporting the raw material, like the proteins afterwards.
I see your business is very much dependent on this licensing model. Assuming that your patent, I guess you're projecting that your patent will come through sometime soon, or you're
Right.
How did you estimate what your royalty fees from your licensing were going to be? I mean, have you had any discussions with the potential users? You're showing that yes, this has significant advantages over other ways of doing it, and therefore it's worth this much. How did you come up with these numbers?
Well, we calculated with 3% of license revenue, and that was our assumption.
How did you come up with this?
Well, we
So we took the sales. So, for example, 1 kilogram of protein, we add the profit, we add all the costs which are pretty. So we took the price for 1 kilogram of protein. Then we add also the profit and also the taxes. So we had the price for the protein with the taxes and all complete. And then we had the market. If you pick the market, need a slide. No, the other one. So our revenues are only projected on 3% of the sold final product from a company. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, I guess it's a similar question. If you're not going to be producing the actual foodstuffs, you already have companies in place that will be making the products that get sold in the supermarkets, and I presume that's where your PepsiCo, or,
Right.
any others that you have in mind?
Well, we also thought about Nestle, but we also thought to go the other way around, to talk to mealworm farms, because last year there was a conference, Insects to Feed the World, in the Netherlands, and then we also took part of that, and we talked to several mealworm farms owners, and they actually were really interested into the technology, but we're still working on a patent, so we couldn't really get into contract yet, but this could also be another option to put the machines right in front of the mealworm farm. But then you would have to have investment costs, because we chose PepsiCo because they already have the machines in there. Those are extraction machines which they usually use for producing fruit juice, for example, so they do not really would have to invest a lot of money.
Can you use this protein to easily replace an existing ingredient? If yes, how much cheaper would it be to use yours? What was the protein bars?
Yeah. So,
So here we've got the production costs, which we compared it. That's only the production costs compared to beef, milk, and soybean. As you see, we are not going to beat soybeans, but we're far more competitive compared to beef and milk. Those are the production costs, and then we calculated focusing on the milk and the mealworm proteins. And here we see 1 kilogram of milk protein costs a bit more than $2 per kilogram, and if we would produce mealworm protein, it costs us roughly $1.40.
Okay. I guess you tasted it right in front of us, so that was one question a lot of people had.
it's palatable.
And several folks out there want to try it. So okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.